please get your opinions and guidance from people that have been there before and people that have peace of mind. If you're amongst people that are resentful, you're going to be resentful. If you're amongst people with bad energy and worry, the scorekeeping of recruiting is one of the biggest killers of like family energy right now, right? That's what our game is. It challenges you to be able to observe and make decisions and then still strategize, and everything that leads up to that just gives you the best chance to not make a mistake. That's really our game works. So if you're not paying attention, you don't even know what decision to make.
Welcome to the Car Ride Home podcast. I'm joined again. Our original interview, our original car ride was with Tony Rico.
Back in the car.
Almost a couple years ago. So we have fueled up. We're back in the car with Tony Rico, director, president of the Firecrackers organization, but also one of our key figures, founders, and board members of the Alliance Fast Pitch. Tony, welcome back to the Car Ride Home.
Good to be back in the seat.
Well, we're going to refresh because, again, we have to set the tone. Sure. So in today's car ride, what are we listening to? What's on?
Easy one. The music vibe of my choice for the last couple of years has been Hawaiian reggae.
Do you have a favorite artist?
Vibe. You can thank Holly for that. But yeah, we play it at our events. We put it during batting practice. It's just a good, relaxing, chill vibe. Makes you feel good. Makes you remember why people go to the islands. And so
I need an artist so that way I can look it up, or should I just put in Hawaiian reggae?
Hawaiian reggae. Go with that.
Okay.
That's that general for me. Again, Holly would know most of those answers.
The next most important, where are we eating today on the car ride home?
Well, I'm stacking up my Chipotle points. So I'm taking pride. I'm hoping somewhere in the top 10 because I don't like to spend any points. I bank everything and then I don't like to touch them. So let's just do the Chipotle or Qdoba. I like that.
Qdoba's a good one. We haven't had that one yet.
Easy.
All right. I'm going to use a softball term, guest player. So if we were to pick somebody up for our car ride home today, who's riding with us? Who's our guest player?
Oh, gosh. Someone I'd want to ask questions to. Let's go with Danielle Lowry.
Oh.
Plenty of stories, plenty of perspective, yeah. It's been a while. I've really caught up with her.
Do you want to ask Danielle as the mom now or Danielle as the athlete?
I want to talk about some at-bats, some games, some inner moments. Sure. Almost like talking to Bob Gibson, Yeah. For those people that know Bob Gibson. Yeah. Badass player, great person, known her a long time. And that's just the first one that popped in my head. I'll be asking a lot of questions.
I like it. I got to get her on the car ride.
Love the story she's posting with her, teaching her daughter right now playing ball. So
I love it. Well, Tony, I thought it'd be fun on this car ride to do something a little different. I'm not aging you at all, but you have been involved in softball.
You can age me. For
a few years. So I actually recently got to join you and Marty Tyson and Kenny Knighton over dinner. And just listening to the stories of travel ball, I thought it would be great for our listeners to just enjoy some of that history. So I want to chat a little history of travel softball. Might even throw in some trivia for you. But
sure.
Batting leadoff, I want to kick things off with coaching legends. When you think of coaching legends in travel softball, who are some of the names that first come to mind that people need to know about?
Well, when you say legends, I think there's different categories, but I'm going to start with those that give you the most notoriety, which is winning. So when I came into, and I really didn't know these guys when I started at 1400, but it was Larry Mays and Gary Hanning. So Gordon's Panthers and Orange County Batbusters were like the top of the top. And I guess I just missed Phil Bruder. The Raiders had just kind of not. I don't know if he had moved or relocated, but I just missed that Phil Bruder era. And so as far as champions, those guys there, but Mickey Smith, who founded the Cruisers, who just passed away recently, but I think that he's a legend, and I can really go on and on with different people that I think were extremely successful. We just lost Joe Gonzalez, who was a legendary high school coach out here in California, but he contributed to a lot of the slapping and slappers that went to Arizona. So I can go on and on, but let's just start with those because important figureheads, definitely.
Do you think, like, back in those days, were these guys, were they dads? Were they high school coaches who were also coaching travel ball? Did they do this full time, or were they splitting between a full-time job in softball, you
It's a
think?
good question. I'm going to assume, that's a good question. I know Gary didn't have a daughter play. I don't believe he did. I think he might have started as a player or a young coach. I heard he started very, very young. They were already there. So whether I'm sure Larry started Mays as a dad with Deanna and that whole group with Lisa Fernandez and Kelly Inouye, that was that group that they started with. So yeah, different reasons. And I'm pretty sure Mickey had a daughter as well too. Mickey Smith was known for, that was the first team I actually worked for with the Cruisers through Gene Tomaguchi. And Mickey would be out there doing dive backs in his shirt and tie and his work clothes, but that was his thing. He wanted to show the girls how to get dirty.
That's awesome. I think it's important to preserve that history too. And I'm sure,
Absolutely.
we all, I think travel ball is such a big part of our softball identity. It Hall of Famers. So, in sports, right, you got first ballot Hall of Famers. And these could even be more recent coaches who are coaching now. But when I ask you, sorry, I'm putting you on the spot right away.
That's okay. That's all right.
But if I was going to ask you, like, who would be some first ballot Hall of Famers in the world of coaching travel softball?
Well, I think I just mentioned a few. There's been so many, Jamie, but I think they're different. They're responsible for different things, right? Like for me, the Phil Bruters, the Gary Hannings, the Larry Mays, they were there and the original cornerstones. Started winning programs, right? But then you have different people that came up and people that took over those programs, right? So Mike Stith came in really early. He started coaching Tough Enough in the '90s. I believe Marty came in probably early 2000s, not the late '90s. There's just been a lot. Then you go across the country, and a lot of these people don't have the notoriety because maybe they hadn't won national championships. But gosh, Jerry Glasgow with the Southern Forest, Lou Bishop with up there in the Northeast Tremors. Like I'm just thinking of people, Marty Cooper, the Gold Coast Hurricanes, programs that they were there at nationals. Tommy Orndorff with the Virginia Shamrocks, Greg Schnudi, East Cobb Bullets. I mean, this guy's been coaching. When I came into it in the '90s, there weren't many 10, 15-year coaches. I don't think travel ball had been around that long, like that. Now there's a lot of 20 and 30-year coaches, which is just crazy to think how fast times went by. It's just names off the top of my head.
That is great. Those are some good ones. What do you think, or how has travel softball changed over the years? Like, what do you think are some of the biggest changes that you've seen?
Oh gosh, the love for the sport across the country, the amount of young girls that are playing it, the level of the game, it's amazing. There are you better take care of your business. I mean, there's a lot of great players, a lot of great coaches. Man, the evolution of the sport, the passion of the sport, the numbers of the sport is amazing. And I just go back to that example that you all set with the College World Series and the way that the game was being played in a way that inspired young girls to want to play this, and they're playing it all over the place. And that's just been the most awesome thing to see in the last 30 something years of watching this sport. It was a kind of a sport specific audience when I first started. Now it's very mainstream. See it in restaurants all over the place.
How do you think that's even like going down to some of the younger age groups too? And actually, I want to pivot for a sec because you guys are talking about something interesting at the 18 and under. When we're talking about coaches, we're talking about winning championships, so much is the 18 and under. And Marty brought up a point of like building from the bottom up too. Has that changed in recent years, or of just like starting to get these kids in younger, building programs? Like in your mind, how has that part changed over the years?
I think it's really hard to do what Marty does. He's found a niche and a way to do it. He kind of told that story that he identifies and starts working with his niche of players at a pretty young age. I think it's pretty hard to do for most people because most families, especially as their players become identified as talented or higher caliber, they go into a pre-existing program that already has connections, there's a lot of things that go into it. I think that each phase, even from the beauty of the 6 and under and 8 and under levels, each phase has its place in every young player's journey, right? So that's why it would be nice to see them all kind of collectively realize that they all go into that kid's success as she gets to college, right? It starts with the very first day that she picked up the bat. So I think more so each level has its place. If you can pull off someone playing for you in your org or on your team for even 4+ years, you've done something. That says something about your operation that people have chosen you over their other options. And that's a challenge. And kudos to anyone that can pull that off.
I asked you what has changed, and I would argue that one thing that has not changed is this concept of players moving teams, or quote unquote stealing players, players moving. I was very entertained of you telling stories about your first experiences at 18 and under, when somebody was sitting in the living room. It was almost like official visits, home visits back in the day, but happening at travel ball, of getting some of these top young players over to 18U. Can you share that story? Because I think what's interesting is that almost everybody's gone through it, right? That is something that has not
Part of the game.
necessarily changed.
Even if you're on top of the mountain, are you going to be there perpetually, or for 20 years or 10 or 5 or so? And there's always a place of a higher to level up, a perception of somewhere else to go, right? Which is the challenge of each coach's environment, to provide everything that a player needs. And then when a player has options, to still choose that coach instead of just going somewhere because they're the club that has done this, or that can get you there, or, there's a lot of interesting perceptions out there. So for us, I started coaching when I was really young. I call it lower altitude point of view, right? So just engage in playing, cocky, and, didn't think anyone would ever leave our team. 14s, then 16s. We hadn't been to 18 and under yet. And I had a dad that was driving me to a game, and he just very calmly said, "Hey, I just want to give you a heads up. Most of your players are looking at another 18 and under team. Have me Larry Mays, Gordon's Panthers, right? Plenty of plugs for the Panthers here." And I was like, "No way, man. Give me a break, dude. I'm like 28 or 29. Like, no way, bro. We just won nationals." And it's a good example to all coaches, and it's a relatable story, because then I came back, went to see a buddy play ball. I came back, and Gary Wardine, the founder of the Firecrackers, gave me a call and said, "Are you sitting down?" And we had 4 players left. So he was right. Actually, 8 of them had left, and then the 9th one went that night. And I was proud. They all made it. They all made the team. They all went and won they combined with Amanda Freed and Stacy Newman the next year, and they won gold nationals, I think, in 1997. A lot of them were sophomores in high school. But I didn't know what I didn't know. And I've never thought that anybody takes our players or steals our players. What I experienced very young is that people make choices. And in that case, that they made the right choice. Like, they absolutely made the right choice. Are you kidding me? I was young and naive, but it's part of the game. Which, again, how you respond to that is each. The one thing I don't want people to get stuck in is the resentment, the bad blood, and the harboring. I mean, I know coaches that don't talk to other coaches because of something that happened 20 years ago, which is ridiculous when you think about it. So, part of the game. Happens to everybody.
It is fair. That's been probably, as we've grown the alliance in some of those first conversations, just hearing the history, the bad blood. And I think a lot of it probably roots from that across the country. Go back to that story, Tony. So you lost 9 players. So you had 4?
4 left, I believe. Yeah.
4 left. What'd you do? How'd you rebuild in that?
So Gary asked me if I wanted to fold the team, and I said, "You got me addicted to this sport. Like, no." And so to tell you how long ago it was, I told him to go put a piece of paper on telephone poles and get me 9 bodies. I said, "We'll teach this game." I always was very confident in, like, as far as the playing or teaching part of this game. And then it would happen. I don't know if I mentioned it to this table, but the couple of players that we had left, when we played that team in that next fall and they did well, those players would get a call on Saturday night, and then they would leave our team. And so that we lost 10 and 11, I think, over to the Panthers, because that's just how it was. They would get a call from Al and Tom, and that's just was the status quo of the process, right? So I'm not going to say it was a compliment, and you really didn't get acknowledged by the top until your players were good enough to play for them, or until you were fortunate enough to beat them. It's just the way that it was back in the 90s. It was very much earn your keep. You better earn it. You're not going to be given much. Yeah. Proud of those days.
But it shifted, right? There came a time when those players didn't leave. They might have gotten the call. They didn't leave. They stayed.
Yeah. But I always obsessed on, again, this is just for any coaches that are listening. I've always obsessed on teaching and how we play the game. And that's what I've always loved. I love a practice, love hitting ground balls, love, like if I'm 14, what would I want to do all day long? And so, when we got to 18 and under, we didn't have a lot of success, but we're starting to get some pretty good players. I mean, we used to get the Bat Buster and Panther rejects. That's what we called them the first couple of years. We would have tryouts after the Panthers and Bat Busters did to see if we can get anything that fell off the table. To those players, listen, 11, they didn't make those teams, so they were our first 1800 Firecracker teams, and there were some great players. I can tell you there was quite a few times back in the 90s, it was Arizona and UCLA. Like they were the top two. And there's Patty Gasso watching her teams, and she came close to getting a couple of kids. And I had a friendship with Mike Andrea with Arizona, but it wasn't a favorable one. It wasn't like I'm funneling kids. Mike liked our players and chose those players, right? There was no like arrangements or anything like that. But I saw a lot of coaches stop coming to our games because they had this assumption a player that they liked was automatically going to Arizona. And Patty Gasso didn't do that. Patty kept watching, and I walked up to the fence one day. I'm sure she doesn't remember this. And I told her, thank you for continuing to watch our games, because there was this perception that I funnel people to Mike. And I go, it's not true. And she looked at me and she goes, Tony, I'm just going to have to work hard enough until they want to play for me. And that's a really kind of a crazy statement that Patty gave me. I was probably late 90s, 99, something like that. And now, God, I mean, it's been beautiful to watch what she's done.
Oh my goodness. You know what? That just made me think of this past summer, 2024. It was when we had to move. We were in the Elite Eight, and we had to move the Iowa Premier Bombers game over to a field with lights. And so we're like golf carting players and coaches. And I go by Patty Gasso and Jen Rocha, like, hey, coach, get in. Let me give you a ride. She's like, nope, I'm out here. Like, I got to outwork the competition or whatever she said. But it's interesting. 30 years, that hasn't changed. And it's
100% earned, right?
Yeah. Small side story there. But
Yeah.
Tony, what about for you personally? Like, I guess first off, what has kept you in the game? Like, what fires you up, every summer, working with your players, going out to the tournaments, the events? Like, what fires you up the most?
Look, I'm a ball player. I'm pretty outspoken about take me off the field, and I don't really offer anybody anything. Pretty useless. But grew up on the field and around the game, and I feel comfortable and been very, very fortunate. And so I really believe that the game I love as much as I did when I just imagined things in my front yard growing up. But I've made sure I've kind of stayed on those terms. There's a lot of things that we have to deal with, right? So that's it. I mean, I absolutely love the game. I love the game itself. Over the years now, I love the opportunity, including what we all have to and can do together, to affect the experience that people inside the game are having. But it's really just love for softball. I still think that talking the game, not arguing the game, but talking the game is fun. I've had some great conversations. I'm always meeting new people. So that's really what it is. And Jami, like I just got a picture in my mind of the very first time I saw you playing catch at that turf field in Texas, and I saw a ball player. I told you that, if you remember that. I said, man, you're a ball player,
I do remember that. And that's because that's how I grew up, is just playing catch.
All I am. Worked out okay, though.
It worked out okay. Where do you think you've changed the most? And especially maybe even recently, like whether it's you personally, your coaching, like just adapting to new things within the game. What do you think you've changed the most at?
I think to maintain the ability to realize how much I really love people and I want people to be happy, and to maintain that perspective in a world where there's a lot of resentment or a lot of competition or whatever it is, or smack talking or Rico's this, Rico's that, to try to be and stay at a higher, or what I call altitude, so that I don't get caught up in things and try. The hardest places in my life to be what I really work to be every day is some knucklehead play or a player not paying attention in the middle of a game. And I feel like I want to go back to innate behavior, just lose my mind. But I really try not to. And then for some reason, I think I have, like a lot of people, road rage. I don't do anything about it, but I really get bad thoughts when I drive and there's traffic and people are in my way. But for the most part, stay up high. And again, I know it's really a conversation, but Jami, I have to say this, and I've told you this because I've watched you work now for quite a few years, but staying at that altitude and not getting, let's just say, your feathers ruffled, right? Even though internally we have thoughts and things like that, because you know this. The higher altitude that you fly, the more dignified that you try to present yourself on a consistent basis. Now, every word that you say outside of that is remembered even more, right? If Jami Lobpries loses her stuff just once now online, that ripples a lot more than if you were to do it every 2 weeks, right? So that responsibility becomes greater, but it's really just as a result of the components of like who you are. So it's really like, oh, I have to, no, I just continue to, it's the principles that earn you that respect and that reputation. So you just keep subscribing to the principles. I feel everything else that everyone else does on the inside as far as my immaturity and what I would say, but it's not worth it.
It's so important. Well, I think of just like your dugout demeanor, your on the field demeanor, and you're very calm. I can relate, and you just said it, but like I'm highly competitive. I used to be the kid that didn't know how to control my emotions through my helmet. Like you could
Sure.
see it in my body language. I got coached on body language all the time. But now it's definitely something that I've had to learn and control. And there's constant self talk because, of course, we want to erupt or say something. What is it for you? Is it self talk? Is it like how do you kind of check yourself?
It was for me. It was seeing examples. I'm always someone that if I see something I like, I want to be it or I want to copy it. So it was having good examples. But what you just mentioned is really more relatable to most people than anything else. I mean, you really how many people are born just completely balanced? So to say that we had bad tempers growing up, or that I punched kids in the arm because they took slow rollies and not baby bounces in kickball and had conferences about it. My whole first year playing for the greatest coach I ever played for, all I heard was, Rico, we don't do that here. Rico, we don't do that here. Well, we don't do that either. So that evolution is really a great news, a great statement to anyone that might be listening that doesn't have the peace of mind that they deserve when they're coaching, right? And I still get hot, like you just mentioned, that knucklehead moment, not knowing where to throw the ball, making a decision. These things that are, but then again, our game is like that's what our game is. It challenges you to be able to observe and make decisions, and then still strategize. And every place, like everything that leads up to that, just gives you the best chance to not make a mistake. That's really our game work. So if you're not paying attention, you don't even know what decision to make, right? If you don't trust your skill set, now you don't have the skill and the belief in the skill to just hit a ground ball with a runner on third base. Okay. If you don't have the awareness, you don't even know what first and third play to put on. All those things, and now you're playing another coach like that. Oh man, that's what's like, oh crap. Are they gonna do this? And that's now it's almost like football, right? Offense versus defense. So I don't know why I got into that strategical part, but that's really for the game. That's the fun part. And there's a lot of room to grow. I know I mentioned that, so that coaches that are listening to this realize that we still go through all of that. Absolutely.
Well, I think it's a good point too, because I think about, number one, our format with the AFCS. I do think from a strategy standpoint requires some different strategy, but I don't know if it's talked about enough at our travel ball level of strategy, right? Like how much do you pay attention to, maybe I'm giving some secrets away, but how much do you pay attention to some of these other coaches, what they do? Do you ever try to get under their skin? Like, are you kind of playing that cat and mouse
I
game?
never try to get under their skin. I pay attention to everything they do. I watch how they breathe, they walk, but I think that I don't see it. Like I don't see it in the other teams. The game is moved in a direction, and it's beautiful to watch. But we're just in Florida, and we get the opportunity to play these great teams that we don't usually don't. And I'm watching all of them, right? They're extremely talented. Their hitters can hit. I'm listening to what's being said. I'm watching how they're playing the game, and it's not I'll just say it's strategical, but it's not. I mean, there's somebody calling pitches. There's someone giving feedback. But are they really talking where the defense is moving, what they think is going to happen, what a pitch, maybe they do afterwards, but it's a very physical, talented game. And it's a great thing to watch, but I feel I don't have a lot of comrades out there that kind of will discuss the same thing. And then when I'm talking with it, this is kind of something that I'm going through right now, even with our team. I mean, I'm displacing the heck out of them by having, my analogy is paying attention to so much traffic, right? I'm trying to get to A to B, Tony. You want me to watch the person in the bike lane. You want me to know whether Subway's open. You want me to anticipate whether that light's going to turn green and someone's going to run a red light. Like your hyper awareness of all these things is driving me crazy. And I keep saying, but that's what's going to keep you alive on the road. And it's going to make you the ball player or driver or whatever it is, because what I see is a lack of awareness is what provides most competitive opportunities. Just my opinion. It's a very physical game nowadays. It's beautiful to watch, but it's different.
Yeah, it is. It is different. Speaking of different, and I was actually since the last time that we talked on this, you didn't have the FC Select program. And talking about the changes that you've made, how would you define what you've created with FC Select, partnering with Sean? How would you, and why, I guess, did that come about?
So anybody that knows us, knows me, knows I've never really recruited. I don't go out, listening to Marty talk about bringing up and identifying the younger kids. But I've always just, like I said, go back to the first story. Give me 9 bodies. I like to teach the game. One of our alumni, Melissa Roth, told me last week that I like to challenge myself and see how often we can make average great, because of the strategical or skill abilities of the players, and not always do you have to throw the hardest or be the biggest or whatever. And so for me, you can't work next to Mike Stith and not be inspired with this level of players and the grind and what he's doing with DA and what he and Mark Campbell took to another level. And I just started thinking, I've never minded when our players from Georgia or somewhere else go to another program that might be better for them. But watching Mike, I'm like, okay, how can we start to identify the best players in the Firecrackers, start to appreciate them? And this is still just in its infancy, because right now we have 3 local teams in the select program in Southern Cal, but that's really just a model to what we can start building to develop our players across the country and develop in a way where they don't have to be flying across the country all the time. So how can we get together? How can we still get together physically, but most of all, build a relationship and help them professionalize their game? I mean, that's really the bottom line, is build a program that can help professionalize and develop the realizations that take place so that their decisions are coming from the right spot in their mind and not from being self-critical or being worried or, outcome based and things like that. So this is our second year, and coaching with Sean Bashir, who is more than capable in what he does. And he's done just an amazing job. And we've always tried to give him enough of a stage to do this thing and never hold him back, for no other reason than just being secure enough with myself to want others to be successful and not limit them, right? Not be under me or this or that. So it's been an amazing experience, because it's been good. It's been tough. There's a learning curves. I'm still learning things right now where it is, but it feels good. It's kind of like the range. I mean, developing something from nothing and watching it kind of grow slow and organically when the outside wants it to grow a lot faster. It's been pretty rewarding. So we got a long way to go, really, really do, but it's been fun.
It's cool. I actually feel like a lot of what you just said reminds me of the Alliance and building something from scratch too. So part of what I wanted to just check in from your words, and maybe this is a good time to pivot, is just kind of state of the union, if you will, with the Alliance from your seat, from somebody who has been involved with the game, for a while at various levels with different groups. I'm curious, what's going on right now in the Alliance from your perspective? And is it what you expected at this point, 4.5 years in?
It's been just awesome to collaborate with the people that we're collaborating with. And it is what I expected, even though that was not a concrete vision, it was a principle-based vision. So for myself, respect and relationships, and the people that I work closest to, over time now, not only have those principles been maintained, but we have an elevated level of, it's not respect, maybe appreciation, because we've spent more time together. So there are expectations, and you have done an amazing job of taking the ball and creating real concrete, tangible value and success. But this whole process is like we're all making Thanksgiving dinner together, and we're just having a blast doing it. We don't obsess on whether people like it, whether people want it. I feel like that the intentions to leave the sport better than we found it, to provide better experiences for people, I think it's very, very valid. It's been, I don't want to say fun is not the word, but the whole 3 to 5 years, to not react to other things, to just maintain our course, reassess, right? Assess and reassess and make the right decisions to change course, and then maintain the perspective and perception that we've always had. It's been absolutely amazing. And then I guess another fun part would be like what the perception might have been, what like maybe people thought it was going to be is now changing. It wasn't that at all.
Yeah.
Like the more someone looks at it, it's like we talk about our program with our club ball. The more you dive in, the more you can get on the inside, the more you can scoop in. And so if you're smelling bad stuff in there, well, you need to tell people. The outside perceptions are really easy. It's like getting all your information from just like social media or something, but from personal experience, the more you dig inside the alliance, the better it looks because of the way that it's operating. And it's going to be a long-term thing, Jamie. It's going to be your lifetime before it's really hitting the way it should. But absolutely couldn't be more proud to be part of it. It's in really, really good shape too right now.
I love that. I love how you said too of principle based, because I feel like that's every single thing that we do. What's been your biggest surprise, Tony, of just whether it's a person, a story, a situation, something we've grown? What's been the biggest surprise throughout this process of building the alliance to what it is today?
I'll say maybe defying the odds more than a surprise, because I believed it could happen, is so many people with success on the field with that competitive nature that you talked about. And that if it's not cultivated or always managed, it can be really egotistical and resentful of others. The core group of people that enjoy being in a room together. I was talking a little bit with Kevin Shelton this weekend, and he was talking about just the lack of egos with a lot of the 1800 coaches, because they've been around a while, kind of been through a lot of things. And please don't, people shouldn't take that as we didn't lose our competitive nature, not at all. The competitive nature is still there, but I think working with that big group of people, and then probably what people didn't think was going to be genuine or possible or realistic, is the true respect, and I'm going to even throw love between myself and Marty and Mike and Scott Smith, and just a lot of people across the country. Listening to Jill Higdon speak up on the meetings and making sure that her voice is there, and that overall growth. That's been pretty darn cool. We haven't imploded yet. There's no yet. It's not.
There's no yet. That's what I think I'm most proud of. And for me too, I think the surprise of just the genuine relationships that have been built, friendships really through this, because it's out of respect. And probably goes.
Well, we all know how to walk into a room if the room's competitive, right, and hold our own. It is what it is, man. I mean, that's how a lot of coaches got to where they're at, is being able to take care of business and animosity, on the other side of it. And so if we read a room and that's in there, it is what it is, but we still are who we are and still be respectful. But when we're inside a room with each other, or anybody that feels the genuine part of just trying to be a good person inside this industry, that always feels good. It feels good when you walk into someone's house, right away. Man, don't touch anything, don't mess anything up. And it's still always respectful, but it's like, whoa, this is homey. This feels good in here. I'm really proud of that environment that we try to build culturally, even though it's not a physical thing. That's an important priority for us. And it exists inside the warehouse with Mike and I in a weird way. Vibes are good.
I'm going to ask you, it could be maybe a controversial question, but it sounds fun. So a lot of people, I think, would look at like, oh, well, every 10 years or so, this group gets upset, they leave, they go build their own thing, which is probably what they say about us and what they said about PGF, 15 years ago. Why won't that happen, do you think, with us?
Well, I mean, if there's something that could be better, it should happen. So why say it would never happen? Like that would be limiting to us. That would be like, again, wanting you to never leave us, or, my friendship with you. Like should only be a good thing. And if there's something better, you should pursue it. So I think in terms of whether it should, and if something is better, then that deserves that. It would be interesting if people that cared about it, I don't really know how much they care about the true incentives and stories behind the different changes, which we've been part of, in the last 20 years, not more. But it really starts with a group of people that aren't afraid to do something different, because there's a lot of fear inside softball, and understandably so. Not everyone has leverage to do the things that they want. And there are so many people that your choices do affect how you are treated, or, it's just a reality of softball. That's also what feels good to me, is that our principles are very true. There's no favoritism. I hope to never be part of something where we have protective interests with our friends, or personal agendas we're protecting because we have leverage and power. I'm out. I mean, it doesn't matter. So to that point, I just know the ingredients of the good experience are human based. And if there's others that can duplicate that or replicate that, gosh, that's great for the people of softball. There's plenty of room for lots of great experiences, which is there's a lot of people doing a lot of great things. So yeah, that's how I look at that.
Ingredients. I like that one.
Sure. What's your recipe? What's your secret sauce? Right.
Like
It's not always what people think it is. Not always the business plan. Be a good person.
That's pretty simple. I think, Tony, using your words, kind of, you let people, whether coaches, parents, hey, what do you say? Like, sniff it out for yourself or get a feel for it.
Yeah.
But what would you tell parents, coaches right now? They're trying to understand still to this point, what's going on over there? What are those guys doing? What would you tell those coaches or those parents?
Okay. Well, what I mentioned earlier is before you just assume right away, really take a look at what my words are intended to be. So if I ask you to self-reflect right now and just ask yourself, are you happy? Right? Out of every softball experience you have, are you happy? Do you have softball peace of mind? When your head hits a pillow, does it feel good? Are you not fighting with somebody else in the bed over recruiting, over finances, over playing time? If that shoe fits and you could be happier, it is absolutely possible to not only shed the pain of softball and make it something that you have to deal with, as we do in everything in life, but guidance and experience, it's the number one thing no matter where people get it from, right? Without guidance and experience, okay, without that person in the plane next to me who's flown 100 times and it's my first time or my first 3 times, I'm concerned I'm going to die every time there's turbulence. My heart rate goes crazy. I am absolutely concerned we're going to die. The pilot in his own way could be laughing at me. They don't, but because of my lack of understanding of what flying is. And I'd like to say, a pilot would say, it's never going to happen, but it's certainly not happening very often anymore. Same thing with softball. Please get your opinions and guidance from people that have been there before and people that have peace of mind. If you're amongst people that are resentful, you're going to be resentful. If you're amongst people with bad energy and worry, the scorekeeping of recruiting is one of the biggest killers of like family energy right now, right? And so try 48 hours of just not keeping track of where everybody's going and where they're and comparing and that your daughter's not committed yet. And, if there's parents of younger players, just watch this stuff because it's not healthy. It's not good for you. It's not good for your relationship. The return on investment, Jamie, like the amount of players that don't go to school to play softball, you don't hear about those. And it's not because they don't happen. It's a 90+% return on investment. Everybody goes. It's just the scariest roller coaster ride ever. So I would want parents and coaches to seek a peace of mind. This week in our classes, in our range classes, I asked our players how many of them are self-critical and worry test takers. And they all raise their hand. Like all of them. Okay, so why do you worry? I just point to one. Well, I don't want to get a bad grade. Okay, so what happens if you get the bad grade? All right, another one. Why do you worry? Well, I did all this work and I'm afraid it won't pay off. And so I go into that and said, okay, so raise your hand if you want your daughter to have that same experience and be a worried test taker. And none of them raised their hand. I said, so it's okay for you guys to do this, but you don't want your daughters to be like that. What would you say to your daughter the day before the biggest test of her life? You got this. You've done the work. Okay. It's going to be okay. I said, so just reverse that, right? And then right there, parents and coaches, you got to. If you don't, then, right? Great. You just blew it. Instead of like, you got this is so powerful. And then it goes back to I wouldn't say remedial, but the most simplistic words that are like, get a good pitch, take a breath, slow it down. You got this. Those are the most powerful tools in softball and in life, right? Hard to apply when somebody gets sick, but you still got to say it. You got this, right? So that's it. I mean, that's really the crusade now, which is why the displacement of wanting to jump up and down and cry like a baby when we don't play well or not making good decisions. I don't. All that's still there. That's always going to be there competitively, but I like to affect the experience that people have. And when we can walk by a softball field and ask a parent, why aren't you worried and upset because your daughter's not doing well? The parent says, because I know she's going to be okay. She's going to come off the field and just tell me a story. She missed her spots, made some mistakes. They hit some home runs. She's not a disappointment.
That sounds like a good, productive car ride home right there.
Well, and there you go, right? Because I think that's talking about the name of this and really what it was, because that can be such a what player doesn't know what the long car ride home is in not a good way? Right?
Oh, seriously.
Yeah. And all that passion is out of love too, right? Especially if it's dads. It's because you love your daughter, but you haven't had the guidance for someone to just pat you on the back and go, hey, bud, you don't need to do that. Okay. Ask her how she did. Ask her what her approach was. And if she doesn't have an answer for that approach, tell her, next time I ask you that question, just give me an answer. I was looking for a good pitch. I was trying to hit a ground ball. I knew the play was at second base, whatever it is. Get an answer out of her. That's the first step to building her self-assurance, is that she knew what to do. You can't just get on her because she didn't make the play. You tell them it's like getting on her because she couldn't save the puppy. All vets, they don't save everybody. Okay. There you go.
I actually jumped ahead because I was gonna end with that, but I want to ask you this on record here, because when we first made the decision to go to Indiana for our national championship, you told me, Jami, what'd you say? This better be a home run.
I got it. I'll say it because it was really inappropriate, and I'll apologize to you right now on this. This better be freaking good, because if you think Mike, Marty, and Tony, just what a pompous ass statement, right, are going back, you're crazy.
Well, we are going back. And not only are we going back, we all decided we're going back in full force with all.
I can't wait to go back.
Divisions. Explain, as somebody who, you weren't against it. You just wanted to make sure that it was.
I'm a little baby. I don't like traveling anymore. I really don't like airports. I certainly don't like layovers. I've never needed a tan. I don't need 100 degrees anything. I don't need 100% humidity. Wah, 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 wah. That's obviously, this is not my trained self. This is kind of my driving force on the inside. So all those things, I have a really convenient situation close to the coast here, 5 minutes away from the last game, win or lose. Pretty convenient, but this feels so good, JB. It's crazy. It's crazy. And that's why, to own it, not to apologize to you it's just part of the story, right? My altitude went really low, just the thought of having to travel. And it was just ridiculous because we traveled for 20 years from the time I started coaching all over the place. Mm-hmm. Indiana has been just amazing. It certainly appears that relationship, the appreciation, just the dynamics of it, it's just there. The story is there, the fields. I find myself wanting to go back. Can't wait to go back. So the only thing that creates that is the experience. This is, again, something for all coaches, right? Create experiences that when your players get in the car, they say as many times as possible, I want to go back. If you're an instructor, don't take your lessons for granted, right? You don't want your lessons to be existent. I want to go back. What made the experience so good that I want to go back? And there were so many things in Indiana that made it that way. And to think that it's actually because of our intention is to put on the best national championship possible. So no agendas, no serving a certain, and it's centrally located. It's much easier for the whole country to get to, which is a huge plus. Just one of the boxes that is checked. So again, you had to have the confidence to roll it out there, to go search it, find it. I know it wasn't only you, but you and the team, you hit it out of the park with that one. And now I have to thank you.
I think it's a huge deal. If anybody, and especially that's why I think it's so funny, because it was more of just all right, this better be good, which was great for me to hear too, because it's that extra incentive to make this a great experience for everybody, the athletes, the coaches, the parents. And I think we've done that, but I'm really proud. But it's just funny because people hear Indiana, but they forget about that part when they show up and it's a great experience and a great national championship for these players.
Well, Jami, all the things that go into this, they all can be distracting, right? If you were bottom line dollar driven, right, and you were only driven towards maxing net profits or whatever it was, that there would be an imbalance with things, right? The genuine part of who you are and where you grew up and how you were raised, and really that's a common denominator with quite a few of the founding members, right? Just being genuine with people, so you care about that experience, and so that's what makes us, feel so great about you being our boss. I love to call you boss, because of your intentions. There's never going to be this. And then we always know you're going to hold your stuff together. And so it's more exciting to see just what's around the next corner. You and I both don't know what's around the next corner, but I'm going to assume we're both just as excited about it, because it's like what you're loaded with in the toolbox that you have, and we all kind of bring to the table. It's just going to be exciting, and there's going to be more crud to deal with. There always is more problems, more things to solve, more solutions.
That's the fun part, right?
You got a great team though. You got people on the ground like Shannon and Dave that work really hard, and Jess and everyone that works so hard behind the scenes, but they kill it and they allow you to do what you do. So keep up the great work.
Much appreciated. Buckle up, right? In the car ride home. So I'll, instead of rapid fire, let's just end with maybe one statement, Tony, of kind of a parting. And I'll let you pick. It'll be passenger choice. So I was going to ask you, as somebody that's passionate about the history of travel ball, how can we preserve the history of travel ball and keep that alive? Or what is around the corner? What do you want to see around the corner for the Alliance Fast Pitch? You can either answer both or you can run with one.
Okay. Part one would be keep telling stories. All right. Do people really know the importance of Jenny Finch and how she branded herself and still what she does this day? Like keep telling stories. Like, don't let these young girls forget the fact that Jenny's still relevant, right? Tells you how strong, so what's her story, and keep telling those stories. I think that's important. And then around the corner it's like the frontier. There's so much opportunity. There's so many opportunities, and there's so much opportunity for people to create what they want. So take a really good look at who you're surrounding yourself with, your own principles that you go by. Most people step into this either because their daughter needed a coach, or they're an ex-player, or they're an instructor, and they're very competitive based. But boy, is there an opportunity to build relationships with your competitors, build relationships with tournament directors, umpires. I mean, there's a lot of work. There's a lot of things that we want to make better for the next generation. I would say to coaches, if your daughters were to coach and step into your shoes, do you want them to have your exact situation, or do you want something better for your daughters? So, compete on the field, still go at it, still could be the big bad, take care of business on the field. But come on, we're one industry. So don't forget that. Respect and relationships.
We're one industry. That is good. You've had some great one-liners, including make average great, which I really
That was Melissa Ross. She gave me that one. I said, I go, is that a compliment? And she goes, well, yeah, because, I go, okay. So I like to time one arm behind my back and still see if we can go at it a little bit. But
the other thing, I don't know if you noticed this, but I said passenger choice. So I went ahead and insinuated that I'm driving and you were riding shotgun, by the way. Did you catch that?
You're always driving, boss. You are the boss. I love that. I love it and enjoy it.
Well, Tony, I always love hanging out with you. I appreciate you joining us once again on the car ride home.
Thanks, Jamie. More good times to come.
Hey, guys. We hope you're enjoying the Car Ride Home podcast. Hopefully we're filling the air and making your car ride home a little bit more enjoyable. Please be sure to subscribe to our podcast on Spotify, Apple, or YouTube, and leave us a review. If you have any special guest or request that you'd like to hear, or have us bring a guest or a story onto the podcast, shoot us an email, info@thealliancefastpitch.com. We'd love to hear from you.